All right.
All right. I think we actually made it.
Yahoo.
Let me just share this on my page. Hello, everyone. We have had some crazy difficulties with getting on live, so we apologize for the delay, but we are very excited to be with all of you at this moment. So I'm just sharing on my page really quick, friends. And to my Yogi Raven page. All right, you guys, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to be here this evening with all of you, with my very new and old, it seems, friend, Debs Shakti. So, Debs, thank you so much for being here this evening.
Oh,
you.
It's my great honor, Raven. My goodness, we always have some kind of technical difficulties, but we always overcome, and I'm so excited. I think it's because our dual energy is just so incredibly high that we blitz everything. So, but
hey, we're here. Interesting about it, that's for sure. Always. But before we get any further, I want to introduce you to everybody. Deb Shakti came into this world fully loaded with what most people would call superpowers. Not knowing she was very unique, she possesses incredible psychic abilities and lives multidimensionally, perceiving energies and life forms not of this planet or of this plane. She is a well-respected channel, mainly in a group known as the Star Teachers, who say they are us on a higher level of frequency, teaching and advising enthralled followers. Serving for 50 years as a devoted yoga and meditation teacher, with over 4 decades of professional practices as quantum hypnotherapist, energy worker, counselor, and intuitive. She loves offering personal and group experiences as a workshop and conference presenter, teacher, and guide. She also hosts a local CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, contact group, and is an active member of several international CE5 contact teams, researching the infinite nature of non-local consciousness. Her services also include ET contact and paranormal experience counseling to clients all over the world. Her purpose in life is to help others awaken and grow by practicing and teaching the positive effects of heart coherency and conscious, balanced, and sustained self-awareness. Everyone, please meet Debs. And Debs, thank you once again for being here.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Raven. I'm so honored. I really am, and so grateful to be part of this group and able to have this platform to speak to all your members. It's a wonderful thing.
It is, and I would love to just get started in that field. You know, can you share with everybody, you know, a little brief synopsis of how do I even start this? Of how you got started, I guess we'll say, with the Star Teachers. How you got started on this path?
Well, they came along and identified themselves fairly recently in my life, within the last 5 years. But now that I've been working with them, I realize that they've been with me, you know, all my lives, if you will. And I just never asked for their name. You know, they don't go by labels. They're so highly evolved that they don't use labels anymore, and they're not attached to ego. So they actually gave me some resistance when I asked for a name, but people were asking by that time. But basically, they just showed up in physical form in a quantum transformation session. My work I call quantum transformation, which is a blend of quantum hypnosis, energy work, counseling, and psychic work. So I was working with a client who was just a big skeptic, a person who didn't believe in any of the things I just told you about, but had been sent home to die, basically, to get their affairs in order with a incurable terminal cancer. And there were a lot of mental and emotional things going on there as well, as one would expect. This person had been fighting it for a long time. But someone bought them a gift certificate and said, you have to go see her. What do you have to lose? Nothing, right? And they came in and she said, I'm just going to tell you right off the bat, I don't believe in any of this stuff, but I'm open because I'm here. And so we began the session, and, to make this brief, basically the ceiling of my office opened up. There was a huge craft above the office. These 7 to 8 feet tall, beautiful beings showed up around the table. I had her on a massage table. I was doing energy work and telling her what I was seeing, because I have all the clairs, if you will. I was getting visuals, I was getting audio, I was getting all kinds of information. And they showed up in physical form and were very beautiful. And part of me was like, oh, wow, I'm having an experience on my own, but I'm responsible for this person right now. And, I don't call it telepathy, I call it telepathy, because there's feeling, as you know, not just information coming mentally. When you are connected with someone like that, the telepathy between me and these beings was absolute. To such a point, they just said, we're here to help, we're here to show you some things to increase your abilities. And one actually slipped my body on and was moving my hands and my body for me and doing all kinds of things. And I just completely gave up, surrendered to the experience. Anyway, it went on for a couple of hours. It was quite beautiful and very stirring. And at the end, they just kind of vaporized, and the office became the office. And as I usually do, I had her sit up on the table, gave her some water, some blessed water, asked her to drink. And I said, let's debrief a little bit. How do you feel? And she said, I'm perfect. And I said, but how do you feel? I know you're perfect, but how do you feel? And she said, no, you don't understand. Everything is perfect. I'm completely well. I'm completely healed. I know it. And I said, really? And she said, yes. And I said, well, tell me a little bit about your experience. Did you relax a little bit? And she said, did you not see the ceiling open up, that big spacecraft above, and she started describing the whole thing exactly as I had seen it. And I said, yes, I did. But I wanted to see if you did, because everybody has their own experience. And she said, I don't have words for what I experienced, but I know that I'm healed. And indeed, when she went back for her next doctor's visit, she started feeling better and better and better. She went back to her next doctor's visit. The cancer was non-existent. They called it remission. They didn't know why, but and she's gone on to live and have a happy life ever since. And after that, they started showing up in every session and in all my meditations and in all of my dream work, all my out-of-body experience work. They're just constantly there. And so I eventually started holding galleries for people who wanted questions answered and healing and so forth. And I've always channeled, I've always done all this stuff, but this was something really incredibly different, more powerful, where people would come from everywhere to these group sessions and they would answer questions about things I have, and I'm pretty well educated, but I have no clue about. And basically what's happened is I almost feel like we've merged to the point where, they just kind of slip in and out of conversation, even when I'm talking, or having my life experience, and I'm okay with that because it's such a beautiful thing. So that's who the star teachers are. Basically, they say they are us on a higher frequency. If you want to use linear time, which I don't, because I'm a quantum person, I work in the quantum field, which means everything's happening all at once, forever, all together, right? But if you want to say, give it a context, they're our future selves, and they call us their future ancestors, basically, which I think is such a cool little term. But they say that they live, and they live in that beautiful higher frequency where there is no duality, there's no negativity, there's no ego attachment, no karmic patterning of the third dimension. They say that's just what's in this little science experiment. The rest of the cosmos lives differently. But they say that they live because of us, and they are here now to remind us that we actually accomplish it, and to help kind of turn the switches back on inside our systems that have been kind of put to sleep, so we could have a valid experience here. But now that most of us are finished with it, they're like, okay, let's turn the lights back on, and let's help them integrate what they're seeing, because it can be kind of shocking.
I have a feeling this conversation is just getting warmed up. We've got quite a bit of people hopping on here already, making comments.
Awesome.
So, and they're like, love this, goosebumps. Thank you for sharing this experience. Makes me feel so good. And I think that's such a great topic. Wake up and do the work. Yeah, absolutely. In relation to what we're discussing today, and that place of craving, and that place of being in the body, right? And feeling craving is an experience with vibration. And you talking about so Cassie, I need to tell you a story, because this is a really interesting experience, you guys. I'm just gonna say this right now.
Oh wow.
Cassie just commented, Raven, this was with my dream message. Cassie had a dream. Cassie, I think, Cassie, will you give permission for me to share this? Because the same night that Cassie had a dream about me, Debs, you had a dream about me.
And we haven't talked about it yet.
No, we haven't talked about it yet. And Cassie, this is in the dream. There's. I'm gonna wait till Cassie gives me permission. Yes, more stories. Yes. So when Cassie says yes or no, we'll kind of go from there. But this concept of body, and I want to talk about. Okay, Cassie says yes. Okay, so in the dream, essentially, Cassie was. I'm gonna just read it to you. I think that there's something very interesting happening about this. So. Here we go. You came to me in a dream last night. You shared a message with me, maybe more than one, but here is the gist of the dream. I was involved in some important class that had some business, maybe archaeologically in Egypt, and we were planning to leave to go to Egypt as soon as possible. I was trying to get ready to go to Egypt, and I couldn't get my shit together. Just like most of all travel dreams I have, I finally felt as though I was ready to go, even though I kept losing her shoes and finding herself barefoot. I was by the hospital in Estes Park, and the airport was across town by Estes Park High School, which is up in the mountains. For those of you that don't know, Stanley Hotel, if that gives you misery. Or not misery, but whatever it is. I didn't know how I would get there in time for the flight. That is when you showed up. You appeared next to me and you said, run. So I started running towards the school. You were with me, and not really running, but floating alongside me. I stopped running, and I saw a big flat spaceship with blue LED lights come in for a landing. It was landed a few miles away. I had a slight panic, but it seemed to know that ETs were landing. You were calm and collected, present like a spirit guide, showing me something. Another ship just like it appeared in the sky and went for a landing, and then a third. this is when I turned to you and you just told me aliens are an important part of this right now. And enlightenment, I have chills when this is, and this is pretty much when I woke up. So now she's now sharing with me, her currently right here, right now, that this is also part of the messaging that was coming through in her dream.
Mm-hmm. And very similar to the dream that I had with you on the same night. So I'm not going to go into all of it, but we were working on a big project together. We were traveling. There were all kinds of geographic and logistical obstacles. And there was a spacecraft, and they were here to help us. So it was almost, it's like we were in the same frequency, I guess, you know, so that's the work we're talking about. But and that's the other thing that I do. I do dream work. I call it dream yoga because it's part of my yogic lineage as a yoga teacher. But yeah, dream interpretation, and there's a lot to that we probably don't have time to get into tonight. But I'm happy to have that conversation, well, and we can publish it later.
I think that's really important because I'm getting the messaging to talk to you about, you know, the body in itself, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And that conversation, you're talking about healing. Jenna was talking about healing today. I feel like that's a really big topic of conversation. I just got chills thinking about it. Those that are watching right now, will you type a 1 if you resonate with that statement? That you resonate with healing and healing yourself and your health as a point of concern right now in your life. And maybe that is because, as Debs and I were talking prior to getting on this live, you know, Debs is, you know, bringing the teachers in to the conversation right here, right now. So, you know, please, by all means, if you have any questions that come to you, huge topic, Kimberly Moran says, and she types.
Yeah, it is a huge topic, but it's the topic of conversation in all my sessions right now. And it's what the teachers keep talking about as far as technology. You know, we think of technology usually as mechanical or digital now. And what they're saying is that, you know, let's just take the current situation with the COVID virus. That is a technology that most of us don't understand, but they're starting to give us information about it and how we can put it in the proper context so that we can get what we're supposed to get out of it instead of suffering and losing our shit over it, basically. So health of the body is very important right now. Care of the body is super important right now because your literal DNA, Raven and group, your DNA, what they're telling me is our DNA are the transceivers of the information for non-local consciousness, which is the all that is. I used to call it the universal stream of consciousness or the Akashic record or whatever, but consciousness, everything. So it is our communication device. In other words, what I do when I'm channeling, which most of what I'm saying tonight is probably being channeled because I never know, but what I'm doing and what you do and what other people do when they're channeling or when they're creating something or when they're inspired is you're streaming information. So we are literal streaming devices. Our DNA is the technology for that information to come through. Well, it hasn't been hooked up. It's like like the old timey cable for your TV. If the cable came unhooked from your TV, you couldn't get the program, right? All you have to do is hook the cable in and turn the power on, and voila, you have 1,000 channels. Well, that's what this is about. So they're saying that, we're just talking about one virus, but all things that are coming in that seem to be body ailments or diseases or whatever, they are literal information packets that we're supposed to be receiving that help us turn some of those switches on. However, if our bodies aren't properly prepared, they aren't calibrated to receive that much power, and your circuits burn out and you get sick, or you get uncomfortable at the very least. Or you may, the body may discorporate, which is, there's also something else to that too. A lot of people are just deciding, hey, I can work better from a higher level, so I'm just going to let this body go, and that's okay. We're making so much negative aspects or reactions to something that actually we should be taking care of ourselves for, so that we can receive it better and utilize it for what it is, which is to increase our awareness and to turn on our superpowers. Mm-hmm. Okay, does that make sense? So anyway, that's the message that's coming through. And I was very resistant to it at first, because I'm like, no, I don't. I've had several friends pass on from this particular virus. I know many people who are suffering from it right now personally. And then I look at that, and when I look at their energy bodies, I can see that the energy body may be receiving the information, but the physical body may not be aligned with that yet. And so there's a disconnect. It's out of phase. And so what we really should be looking at is how to take care of ourselves from the inside out, from the outside in, and get everything in balance. And when we do, all of that's going to come into coherence, and it's going to be really, really powerful. It is, I know it sounds horrible to say this, but it's not the negative thing we think it is. It's just that we're reacting negatively to it, some of us, because we weren't prepared for what was to happen when it happened. So
Karen says, yes, pay attention to your dreams and messages. I told Debs about our symbols on my walls. This is Karen Clark. When I wake, this is nothing new. I'm paying attention and writing them in a journal, which is a great idea for everyone.
Yes.
She's also one who propelled me into becoming a yoga instructor. I know I've had contact. And then Kimberly Moran says, yes, everything is consciousness, and we need to be healed and have our frequencies in tune to connect into this higher frequency. So let me ask you, those that are watching right now, how do you feel about that? Do you believe that your emotions and your thoughts are the frequency that do shift your health? So we'd love to hear your thought. Cassie says, I agree, Debs. This packet of information is for us to shine light on the dark places. And it's really, it's another way of saying, I guess, when certain people have said when they are diagnosed with cancer or some illness, it's like one of their greatest gifts, because they made such transformation in who they were. And I think that's what you're saying with like those downloads.
Yeah. I mean, let's look at this. We're human beings. We're in the third density, okay? Third dimension. And so we're working with what is seemingly physical material, including our bodies. So we have to look at that from the place of understanding that everything here has a dual nature. Think about all the other, if we look at this as the technology, for instance, look at the other technologies we've had in the past that we've discovered. For instance, when we first discovered the combustion engine and burning fossil fuels, there were two sides of the story. People were like, oh, woohoo, we don't have to take care of horses anymore, and we can go faster, and we can go longer, and we don't have to do this, that, and the other thing. And there were a lot of other people saying, oh my God, what's going to happen to all the blacksmiths and all the people who raise horses and who build carriages? Well, so there was a lot of polarization around that, but eventually they came into coherence where they're like, okay, these people can transfer over to the jobs of actually making the vehicles or procuring the oil or whatever. The third part of that technology is, if you're not prepared well for it, there can be I don't want to say negative, but there can be consequences that you have to deal with in the future, such as, you know, climate, accelerating climate change, because we've polluted our air and our water with all of this stuff, and we've covered up the planet with concrete for roads. Another technology, you know, is the nuclear industry. Everybody thought, wow, we've discovered nuclear energy. This is so much more advanced than fossil fuels, and look what we can do with this. And they were all excited, and they jumped right into building power plants and so forth, which was great. But they forgot to ask the big question, what do we do with the waste? You know, and what do we do if there's a breach during the process? And so technology here in the third dimension has dual nature. Okay. And we have to not just, really what's coming through for me is we have to train ourselves to not only look at the negative aspects of it, but to start focusing on the positive aspects and possibilities of it. Okay. So remember, and you know this, you teach this as much as I do, what we focus on becomes our reality. That's how we create in this place. That's how we create everywhere. But if all we're going to do is walk around and singing, oh, woe is me, the world is never going to be the same again, and everybody's getting sick, and I'm afraid, then everybody's going to get sick, and you're going to become more and more afraid, and it's going to become more and more dangerous. If you can look around you and say, wow, I'm feeling different right now than I felt even 6 months ago inside my energy field. I'm having more vivid dreams. I'm having interesting experiences and memories come up that I haven't thought about for a long time. And they're synchronistic with what's happening in my life right now. And you start to put two and two together. And that's where we're going to see that this technology is, there's more to it than we thought.
So let's talk about that integration that you had. You said you felt them enter in to your
mm-hmm.
body. Where were you at with your level of like acceptance of your intuition?
Okay, well, I came in with it, and I thought everybody had it, or at least that it was turned on. I thought everybody was living the same type of experience that I was, multidimensional life, seeing energy fields, you know, having all the different psi gifts on. And that got shut down pretty quickly by the time I got into school, because it was just, you know, it wasn't accepted back then. So I went for about 15 years or so kind of suppressing it, but the experiences kept happening. But, you know, when I got in my 20s, thankfully, in the time that I was born, it was the hippie age. People were starting to talk about such things, and it became more acceptable to talk about it. And then I started finding out, hey, there are actually teachers out there helping you understand what this is, or helping you develop these things. So I've had a long path of this, but I've always done the work. I was a healer even when I was a little kid, or a healing practitioner. I don't want to say healer because I don't do anything. I just hold the space for people. But always have been able to channel, always been able to get information from the universe and from other people. But what happened, and this piece I have left out, what happened right before they came in this way, was I went through my own upgrade, and a very intense upgrade about 6 months before, where I lost all my hearing suddenly. I had pressure in my ears and in my head. I had no balance. Everybody thought I had an inner ear something, and I kept going to specialists, and they kept saying, no, you've just lost all your hearing. And my eyesight started going bad, had no balance. I was dizzy, I was sick. Even though I couldn't hear, the vibration, all of my senses were turned up. So all the vibrations of sound and light would knock me out. I mean, I would faint. And I went through lots of specialists for about 6 months. It was a very hard time for me. And eventually the ones that I was going to said, look, we can't help you. We're going to send you to a brain surgeon who might want to do an experimental technique on you, but it may not work, and it may make it worse. And I just thought, the whole time the teachers kept coming through in meditation saying, stay out of fear. This is an upgrade. Your body is not caught up to where your frequency is. You've been doing your whole life all these spiritual practices. You've been, communing with higher level beings all this time. You're receiving a ton of energy, but your body hasn't been able to calibrate to it yet. And that's what this is. So, it takes a while in the physical world to catch up. Don't be afraid and trust. And I kept saying, okay, I do, but how long is this going to take? They're telling me to go home and get my affairs in order because I'm going to be disabled completely. So I went home from that visit. I came home. I cried all the way home, came home, and I was exhausted. That was the other symptom. I slept a lot, and that's not me. But I went into meditation and I said, look, I trust you implicitly. I just give myself up to this experience. If this is the truth, I know it's going to end well. And I went into meditation. I fell asleep. I slept for 12 hours. When I woke up, everything was fine. It was more than fine. I could hear better than I'd ever heard in my life. I could see better than I had seen in years. I could literally hear the tectonic plates of the earth moving underneath me, which was kind of unnerving at first till I realized what was happening. I could hear the blades of grass growing outside my house. I could smell people cooking food a block away. And finally they said, now it's going to take a little while for you to be able to, tune out where you're able to walk in the world and still have all of these extra ultra senses. And there are more gifts than that, but that was my upgrade. And right after that was when this happened, when they came in. And I was only able to perceive them for real and feel that one go into my body because I had brought my body up into the calibrated state.
And I think that this is a really great point to reach out to the audience and ask them if they have ever had an incident like that, because I especially, and I don't know, like I've had this purging experience when I actually shifted, when I moved from the Front Range up to the mountains. There were like 3 times where out of nowhere I got sick and just was vomiting and lethargic and out of it. And I thankfully had somebody that was a light worker, that was around, that was like, yeah, this is not, oxygen deprivation or whatever, because I was in a higher elevation. He's like, no, you are, you're having a purge.
Right.
Having a purge so that you can upgrade your frequency.
And the purging part is often necessary. I will say that's one of the messages that comes through all the time. And they're just going to say it the way they like to say it right now. You have to let go of all the heavy baggage, of all the toxic material. And that's not just physical stuff. That's mental stuff, emotional stuff, deep stuff. You have to let it go and dissolve it and transmute it before you can move up in frequency and meet yourself there, because it does not exist there. And if it, that's a different frequency. It's non-resonant with where you are now, carrying around all of that heavy stuff. So, you can't have 2 different frequencies in the same place if they're non-resonant.
So have you ever experienced an illness that was unexplainable, feeling sick out of nowhere, having a weird illness that, nobody can explain in the medical field? And then the next question I want to pose to the audience is, do you feel that you were born with these gifts? Do you feel that you were born with these abilities as well? Do you recognize, these ultra senses, as Deb said, that you may have shut down as well? We have, hold on to one of that. I just want to, Cassie says, to answer Raven's question, it's important to pay attention to those energies in and out, especially in these times. But to be honest, with today's stresses, it's really hard to do in these times as well, trying to stay with the trust. And she said that right prior to you sharing this place of like, just really trusting and offering it up. And she also said, wow, never heard of upgrades. And then the next question she's asking is, what do you think about using things to facilitate the purge, as in combo or others?
Well, everyone, and again, this comes up a lot in my sessions. People ask me about things like this, plant teachers or other things. And basically what we want to say now to each of you is, you are all so unique. You must, part of the building of the trust is building the trust within your own self and saying, yes, I do choose this because it's my highest excitement, or it's my passion, or it's the most interesting thing that I can think of at the moment, and just do it no matter how wacky it is, knowing that you are building that level of trust between yourself and your higher selves, so what will work for you to help you calibrate or purge or whatever it is you're doing may not work for your sister, or it may not work for Raven, but it will work for you if you feel very drawn to it. Just go into meditation, sit with it, ask yourself these questions. You might even do some of the affirmation or validation techniques that Raven's been showing this last week. There's no mistake. There's no coincidence that you showed those techniques. Do the muscle testing, or do a pendulum, or whatever is your thing, and ask, is this piece of technology for me? Is this my next step?
Hence, trusting in your cravings, right? Trusting in those inner desires.
The cravings are nothing more than signifiers of your next step. It's up to you to translate that. The universal language is the language of symbols. Okay. So you have to ask yourself, what am I craving? What am I drawn to? What am I excited about, or passionate about, or curious about? Like, it just won't go out of your head. What am I curious about? That's a craving. The craving is symbolic of your soul saying, this is your next step, if you are brave enough to trust and take that move your foot one step forward. So
yep. Kimberly says, I was teased so much for my awareness and sensitivity, so I started numbing it. Lasted decades, so now I'm clean living and awakening my senses, not worried about what others think. And thank you so much for sharing that, Kimberly, because I feel like your story is very similar to many that are in this group and are, part of the Super Soul tribe. We all have these, yes, love that. Thanks, Debs. We all have, this story of checking out, of unplugging, of rejecting our gifts, and that causing us illness, that causing, I found myself craving more alcohol because I did not want to recognize that I had these abilities. And it got to a point where I had to look at fate square in the face and finally accept it. And once I did, that shifted for me.
Well, what we have to say to that is, there should be no judgment of anyone that you see, no matter what they're doing. If you see someone who is self-medicating, for instance, please know it's because their sensitivities have been turned up and they just don't understand what it's about, or they don't know how to, tune it properly. And so it's too much. It's overstimulus. And when you see that, you might start to just energetically send the intention balance. Just send balance with your love to them. You don't have to interfere. You don't have to try to preach or anything, and especially if it's for you. Some people use food, as a self-soothing mechanism, a self-medicating mechanism, or sex, or alcohol, or drugs, or whatever, shopping, gambling. It's all because they're trying to turn down or get away from all of this intensity coming in. It's like, look, staring at the sun, but eventually human beings, every one of you, comes out of that phase and realizes, hey, it's pretty okay to stare at the sun because I'm getting all this information that will assist me to live a better life. So
love that. And Christine says, I was practicing TE5 for 2 months and having all kinds of contact experiences before I experienced contact as lights in the sky for the first time. In the days following, I felt so sick, physically, emotionally, spiritually, felt miserable, and felt so uncomfortable in my own body. I felt trapped in this human body. Some loving friends reminded me that I am here for a purpose. I was able to focus on this truth and felt better quickly, and in fact soon, quite energized and optimistic about this human experience. And I love that you shared that, Christine, because there is kind of a pendulum swing that happens when an upgrade happens. Like you kind of go up and then it swings back, and then you go up and you reside more in that higher vibration.
Right. Really what the teachers are here to help us with, and what my work is in, in connection with them and other guides, everyone's guides, is to help people understand how to get to where they want to be in vibration and then sustain that and keep it balanced. Because it does you no good to be way out here in, astral land, because, let's face it, our mental institutions are full of people like that. They're not mentally ill, they're just not able to function in both realms very well because they aren't balanced with it. So what our work is about is to help you understand how to be able to access that better, and then B, integrate it in such a way that it becomes a balanced and sustained conscious state. You can't be unconscious about it either, or you're just, you're walking around with 50 radio stations all playing in your head at the same time, and it's cacophony. Well, who wants that? That's not joy, right? So.
Yeah. And Karen asked it, which I think is a great question. How do you step into what you love when you have been hurt? And Karen, I believe you had mentioned earlier about being teased for your gifts and abilities.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Do you want to speak to that?
Here's where the big trust piece comes in. You always have to choose love. You always have to choose, again, what is the highest vibrational state for yourself. And you have to stop questioning what people will think. What does society say will happen if I, become a painter instead of a lawyer? What will people think if I suddenly, break off this relationship and go off on my own and discover my own gifts for a few months and then come back? You have to start just taking we hate to use that word, but taking that leap of faith. Was part of the work that I do with especially in groups, which is part of what my workshop's going to be about here in a couple of weeks, Raven, is it's called Quantum Jump. It's part of Quantum Hypnosis, where you literally, take that leap of faith. You literally jump into, with some guidance, a higher frequency, and you literally watch yourself there living that life. And then you meet and merge with that self, and you receive the information you need to receive from that vibrational state, and you bring it back here, which changes this state for the better. But you have to be able to just say, okay, I don't know if I believe in it or not, but I'm going to be open to the experience. And incredible things happen when you do that. And part of that process is to teach you how to do it every time by yourself if you want to from now on. Easy peasy.
Yes. And let's see, Cassie, I think you asked me something about TED Talk and the indigenous tribe, or the conversation about shamanism. You said, which is why this is amazing that you're doing this. Thank you. And I wasn't able to read the whole thing or the feed, but I'll take a look at it after. And I have felt honestly very called to create this for a very long time. And I can't tell you how grateful I am to be aligned with such amazing light workers. I think it just is very telling that everyone is really ready. We're ready to collaborate. We're ready to come together. We're ready to see our gifts. We're ready to like believe and trust in all the little keys that we all have that can unlock, you know, more power for ourselves and for this planet. I love the term leap of faith. Yeah, like Quantum Leap, like the old show, right?
Yeah.
Many humans don't want to hear it. Laugh out loud. Yes, yes. And it's hard because we have been taught, I believe, for a really long time, dense reality. You are separate to, separate from God, and you need to look outside of yourself. Somebody else has the answer. You need to go to a higher person to tell you what's wrong with you, to heal you. And there has been this battle between science and religion. Back in the day, it was called New Age, that I remember when I got into it.
Yeah.
And so there's just this fusion taking place, right? The left and the right are starting to merge. The masculine and the feminine are beginning to talk.
What you're talking about is balance. We're coming into coherence. And, I laugh every time I hear New Age because it's ancient, what we used to call mystery school stuff, but it's becoming, open for all people, not just for a select few. But it's ancient wisdom. It's stuff that we have always known on the higher levels of our being. And we purposely veiled ourselves to come to this place, to have this experience for more learning, for, dare I say, even our amusement. My guru used to call this place the school of the soul. I call it the amusement park for the soul. And, amusement parks sometimes have scary roller coasters and haunted houses that you may not want to go into again once you've been there. But it's a thrill and it's an experience, right? So we've been through all the rides, all the experiences, most of us, and we're ready to check out the rest of our existence, and the way to do that, though, is to let go of some of this heavy stuff.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and the heavy stuff, right? The denser, lower, and they're not the, when we talk about shadow is the light. It's just a part of it that hasn't really been integrated yet, right? And that's why it's so uncomfortable to look at.
That's all it is. There is, there really is no good nor evil. There is no light nor dark. There just is life and the different layers of it. And until you are ready to see the goodness of those other layers, that, forgive me, but we've been indoctrinated to believe, that's part of the us versus them paradigm. The separatist paradigm is that there is an enemy, that there is something to fight against, that there is something to resist. And that only perpetuates the thing that you don't, that you're uncomfortable with. Well, it's because it's trying to give you a message. It's knocking on your door louder and louder. It's not going to go away. So, once we realize that we've been kind of sold a bill of goods for many millennia by a few people who want to, control or keep us in fear to control us or whatever you ascribe to. And that's all been a learning experience too. Once we really realize that and realize that we are not separate from anything, this is what I call the non-local conscious awareness. We are all that is. And we have access to everything that is that, with a capital THAT. Then there is no reason to fear alien invasion, for instance, because it's just BS. The beings that are trying to get through to talk to us are here. They're us trying to help us, grow up a little bit. There is no reason to fear this political leader and that political party or this religious organization. Really, it's just different facets of a fractal hologram. And we're looking at these different facets of a jewel, and each one is reflecting something different, and they all have information for us. If you don't like the piece of information you're looking at, you might ask yourself, why is it making you uncomfortable?
I love that. And Rhonda has a beautiful post here. She says, oh, I lost it. Where did it go? Let me see if I can find it over here. Oh, it dropped. You guys are having too many amazing comments going on.
Is it Rhonda Durham? For me?
No, I can't even see anymore. But that's okay. So not invasion. No, they are trying to assist. Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, I personally can say I've been having very beautiful, heart opening, special experiences with my relationship that's been opening up, and really amazing synchronicities that we can get into other, topics of discussion later. But what I want to share is, for those of you that are watching and watch this as a replay, when you share this video on your page, you enter to win Deb's workshop for free. So please share on your page, and share as many times. Your name will be entered in as many times as you share it. So you can share it to however many groups as you want. There you go. There's that. And we'll do a drawing live for you to see who we pick. But Debs, why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about your event, what it is, what it entails, and we will have information about that, or when to register will actually be tomorrow. We'll have it up.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's going to be something really even incredible for me. It's going to be kind of a dual thing. We're talking about duality, but this is a good part of duality. We're going to have the star teachers are going to be helping to lead this workshop. And the first part will be them talking a little bit about the nature of non-local consciousness and about how you can develop your own gifts and access them. And they will be taking some questions from the participants. So you can ask any question you want, and they will talk to you. I mean, it's an interactive thing. And then about halfway through, we're going to close that panel, and then we're going to co-lead a group quantum hypnosis session or quantum jump. And just what I was talking about before, you'll be led through a guided process where you will jump, if you will, into a higher level frequency where you're going to meet with an advanced version of yourself. And that may not look anything like you look right now. And I'm just going to tell people right up front. I've had people say, well, I met my higher self and it was a frog, or I met my higher self and it was a freaking rock. And I thought I was, not getting anywhere with it. And I sat on the rock and we merged, and oh my God, all this information came in. And now I know the answers for what I had questions for. Sometimes it'll look like an extraterrestrial being or a celestial being, or maybe a wave of light. Anyway, you will meet. No one does this. No one does this and doesn't meet. Let's put it a different way. Everyone who does this always meets what we call the quantum twin. It's a different version of yourself in a higher advanced level. You meet them, you merge with them in some way. And that could be it's open-ended. Some people hold hands, they hug. If they're physical beings, if they're light waves, they blend, but they merge. And then you receive, as a loving gift from that twin, what you need for your next steps, if you will, to come up in your frequency to access and develop those gifts. and to maybe have healing and to maybe have some answers for your questions or whatever it is you need to do to make some decisions. There's a lot more to that is going to be left for the workshop, because I want it to be kind of a surprise. I don't want to front load anybody, but let me just tell you, it's a beautiful experience. It always is. And people come away feeling blissed out, loved, mind blown, and very, very empowered. Like, oh my gosh, I have my superpowers now. I'm going to go out and play with them. So that's what we're going to do. Oh, and the other thing that we do in that workshop is you will be given, you'll be giving yourself a programming tool to be able to access that process anytime you want. So you can do it for yourself as much as you like after this workshop, and take off from there. Because really my purpose is to have you not need me after a while. So
yes.
I'm your training wheels.
Yes, I love it. Thank you, Deb, so incredibly much for sharing your wisdom and sharing the teachers with us. Those that are watching this in the future, don't hesitate to post any comments, ask any questions. We'll still be on here. Deb's event will be connected tomorrow for you guys to start registering if you are not a Souls Intuit subscriber already. But other than that, my friends, bask in this download of information that's come through, and this opportunity for all of us to create communion with ourselves. I know that I can relate to everything that you said. I can connect in with many stories in my past of every time I have evolved, it's been through something emotionally, and I've become more superpowered from it. So I love the way that you translated this. Thank you so much for sharing the Star Teachers. Thanks for this platform, and thanks for this topic. Thank you so much for being a part of this experience and being witness to it, and being here and contributing. It's just getting started. It feels like the momentum is really just building. I think you guys can all feel that. I feel like Care Bears are starting to unite, they're starting to open up that power source,
Yeah.
Yes, actually, and I missed the beginning. We'll have to watch the replay, absolutely. But we're going to check out right now. I'm going to go pick up my kids and eat some food and just integrate all of this amazing, nourishing information that I have been shared with tonight. So
thank you so much for, again, giving us a platform, Raven, and for all of you who joined us either live or at any time. Please know that what came through tonight, including there are energetic things that happened tonight, just as we're speaking, that continues on, even if you're listening to the recording. So share it with as many people as you possibly can. Again, it's a technology and it's here for you. And yes, I cannot wait for the workshop.
There's a very interesting witnessing of multidimensionality through the dream complex or the dreamscape. In the very for those of you that haven't been a part of this whole conversation, watch this and you'll see what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I wish everyone a wonderful evening, the most amazing dreams and manifesting moments in your evening. Until tomorrow, we've got the webinar on craving and playing with your intuition with me. So we will see you tomorrow.
Yay.
And have
Thank you so much. Much love, everybody. Namaste.
Namaste.